I can honestly say that I'm sitting here in McKinney, Texas today because Martin Rotert intercepted a football in 1972. Now, how can I say with any degree of accuracy that I am sitting here in McKinney, Texas because Martin Rotert intercepted a football so many years ago? Well, let me tell you. On that day, I played football for Sutherland High School, Sutherland, Nebraska. We were in Arnold, Nebraska, and I was halfway through the first quarter when Martin intercepted a football. I was a defensive end who was trying to tackle the quarterback, but now I had to block somebody, and as I turned to block, somebody who had been blocking me from the side now went straight through my knee from the front. They said I'd never play football again. I was devastated. Later on that year, a couple months later, my friend Todd Chesmo was going down to see the Army recruiter, and he asked if I would go along with him, so I did. And while he was talking to the recruiter, I was looking at this pamphlet. This pamphlet said Fitzsimmons Army Medical Center in Denver, Colorado was the orthopedic center of the United States Army. I asked the recruiter, can I get stationed here? He said, yes, sir, you signed this 3-year contract. And so I did. And I got stationed at Fitzsimmons Army Medical Center. I was a military policeman. And as I went up my first day of patrol, I got on the elevator. And when those elevator doors opened on the 5th floor, there sitting in front of me in this window was an angel. Probably the prettiest girl I'd ever seen. And I thought, if I can get to know her, I'm going to find out which of these doctors is going to fix my knee. To make a long story very short, none of the doctors ever touched my knee, and that little girl and I have been married for 36 years. So I can honestly say I'm sitting here in McKinney, Texas because Martin Rotert intercepted a football in 1972. You see, that little girl brought me back to Illinois after we got out of the Army, and I had 3 children, and one of them grew up and became a financial analyst and got himself transferred down here to McKinney, Texas. And it's because of that that I'm here. Everything we do, everything we say, every action we take, everything that happens to us has future implications. Let me use this quick story to illustrate that. The other day I was walking down a sidewalk, and I've used this on hundreds of people, most of them young women, who are doing what I saw this young lady doing. She was sitting there smoking a cigarette. A young girl, 18, 19, 20 years old, taking her break, having a cigarette. And we talked for a few seconds, but then I said, could I ask you a question? And she said that I could. And I said, are you going to get married someday? She said, I sure am. I said, are you going to have family? She said, I sure am. So you're going to have children? She said, yes, I am. I said, are you going to hurt your children? She said, what? I said, are you going to hurt your children? Are you going to take your hand and reach down into their gut and grab their intestines and twist them and pull them and create a pain so devastating that it is going to last them for the rest of their life? Are you going to do that? She said, no. Well, I said, let me tell you how I felt when I had to watch my mom dying from cancer, from choices that she made at 17 or 18 when she told people, I'm only hurting myself. You're not only hurting yourself. You are creating the most intense pain imaginable for your child that hasn't even been born yet every time you take a drag off of that cigarette. Well, she instantly threw that cigarette down. And I looked down at the ground and there was a pack of them sitting there. I said, now what are you going to do with the rest of that pack? She said, I'll go give them to my friend. I said, so you're going to create this pain for your friend's unborn child? She said I should throw them away, shouldn't I? I said, hon, I can't tell you what to do, but I can tell you this. Everything you do has future implications. Now, if she does go ahead and throw those cigarettes away, and if she does go ahead and have a family, and everything works out really good, there's only one reason that that happened, and that is that Martin Rotert intercepted a football in 1972. I'm going to go just one step farther and tell you about my little girl. My little girl had finished her college classes, and all she had left to do was her student teaching before she became a fully certified teacher. July 4th of 2000, I got a call from her boyfriend that said she had had a grand mal seizure. Subsequent tests, the doctor said she has adult onset epilepsy, that she cannot drive a car. Well, she was scheduled to do her student teaching down at Friend School in Palatine, but instead they allowed her to do her student teaching at Johnsburg Schools, about 250 yards from our house. That worked out really good. In November of that year, 2000, I got a call at work from the school, and they said, your daughter's having another seizure. You better get in here. By the time I got there, she had had a second seizure. More tests, this time including an MRI, found something on her visual cortex, something that was causing these seizures. They sent us down to Rush Hospital in Chicago. On my way to Rush, now my wife and I both have driver's licenses. But if I'm driving like this, she's in the passenger seat driving like this. Not that I'm a bad driver or anything, at least by my recollection, but when we're both in the car, we'd both rather she drives. So I'll read a book or do something. And I had this little book that was sitting on my dresser, been given to me several months earlier by the head of the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. And on the book, it simply said the Prayer of Jabez, and I'd never opened that book. So I grabbed it when I had it out, a little tiny book, and I grabbed it and I took it and I read it. And in that book, it said, if I'd pray this prayer, and it gave the history of the prayer, if I pray this prayer of Jabez with a specific purpose, that there is a good chance that my purpose will be granted. And I thought, you know, that's very, very cool. And I started praying for my baby girl. And we got down there and they did another MRI, and they proved what was found in McHenry County was still there, and that it needed to be taken out by surgery. The surgery was scheduled for January 4th, 2001, and on that day, we all went down there. The whole family was there, the in-laws, the outlaws, everyone, and we were all in the waiting room. The surgery started at 8 o'clock in the morning. It was scheduled to be a minimum of 4 hours, and they didn't know how long the maximum was. It depended on what they found when they got in there. So we're in that room and everybody's crying, oh, Dawn's so nice, oh, Dawn's so wonderful, and she is. But then every time they say it, somebody would start crying. There's all this crying and wailing and gnashing of teeth going on. I had to get out of that room. So I went out for a walk, and as I walked out of the room, you know, I was kind of in a daze in my own little world. I didn't notice these two women walking at me, but then one of them said my name. She said, Mr. Stewart, and I looked, and it was the surgeon. No emotion on her face whatsoever. She said, bring your family into this conference room. And she turned and walked away. I was scared to death. I went to the waiting room. I said, everyone to the conference room now, 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 let's go. And we all got out of there. We went to the conference room, and I beat everyone there by quite a ways. And I walk in, and Dr. Russo was putting the first MRI up, and then the second, and then the third. And we all got in there, and she had her little pointer, and she said, right here is where this thing in her head was found. Right here in this MRI is where we proved it, and right here is the MRI that we took yesterday. This is a higher definite MRI. It's used to guide us in our operations. And folks, what was here and here is not here. It is gone. Someone got into your daughter's head and took it before we got there. What you have on your hands is a miracle. She's at this Rush Hospital. We don't make mistakes. God gave you your little girl back. Take advantage of it. Now, I got to ask you, do you know why my daughter was laying on that hospital in one of the finest hospitals under the scrutiny of one of the finest surgeons in the United States of America? She was laying there for one reason, because Martin Rotert intercepted a football in 1972. You see, that set into a series of actions that led us to that. Had he not intercepted that football, I might not have married that little redhead. I might not have the 3 children I have here. I might have other children with a different woman. Who knows? We'll never know, but we do know that on that day when he intercepted that football, it laid the groundwork for the rest of my life.